Hi guys, Misty Quinn back again with Break It Down Bible Study, Apologetics, and Theology. This is probably the most important message I can share with you all, and that is the message of Jesus Christ. Now, I've talked about church, I've talked about the Bible. Those are extremely important as well, but without Jesus Christ, none of those things will make a difference. Jesus Christ is what it's all about. So it's so important that you know Jesus Christ. The reason there's a catfish Jesus is because people are trying to conceal the truth about who Jesus was. This is not a new conspiracy. This conspiracy is a couple thousand-year-old conspiracy. This is not a new conspiracy. It's not something they started doing in America. There's been a conspiracy to conceal the identity of Jesus since he came on earth. So I told you all that people know who Jesus was. They know who God is. And they've been purposely trying to pretend they don't know who he is, so that people can be in deception and darkness and despair and lost. These are some verses that prove that these leaders in the Roman Empire, Jewish and Roman, knew at least part of Jesus' identity. I'm not saying they knew every single thing that there was to know about him, but I'm saying they knew enough. They knew enough to dig a little deeper, to ask a little more questions. They knew enough not to persecute and not to kill him. He was born. This is not when he was older or they was getting sick of him, not when he was 12 or 30. This is him as a newborn. It's an infant. They knew his identity as an infant. Matthew 2, verse 1 through 13. I'm going to read select verses. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, so King Herod knew, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem. So people from the east who weren't even Jewish came to Jerusalem saying, where is he who has been born king of the Jews? So they knew he was king of the Jews. They knew this. For we saw the star when it rose and had come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all of Jerusalem with him. The King Herod, he was troubled. Like, man, I thought I was going to be the man. As this little infant threatened my throne. All of Jerusalem, you all. How many people were in Jerusalem at that time? I don't know. All of them were troubled by Jesus' birth. So they all knew who he was. And assembling all the chief priests, not some, not most, not majority, all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them whether Christ was to be born. So they identified king with Christ. So if you were the king of the Jews, you were the Christ. So they knew that he was fulfilling the Old Testament prophecies about the Christ. Verse 7, then Herod summoned the wise men secretly. That's conspiracy, right? And ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. She was like, hey, come over here. So around what time that star come up? You know, they didn't have like planes and how we have nowadays. So they couldn't just get over there that quick. They had to take a long trek. So it was like he was born that day. He was born, you know, however many months before that. Or years before that. Now when they had departed, the wise men, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. You mean to tell me a Roman king he was intimidated by a baby that he never met before because of some wise men from the east who weren't even Jewish, who weren't even Roman? Herod knew, the chief priests knew, and the scribes knew, and all Jerusalem knew. And even an angel told them. So this is proof that Jesus' identity was known way before he was in his 30s, way before then. All right, stay reading. John 7, 25 through 26. Some of the people of Jerusalem therefore said, is not this the man whom they seek to kill? And here he is speaking openly and they say nothing to him. Can it be that the authorities really know that this is the Christ? The authorities know it. Jesus didn't say it. He was saying, yeah, they hating against me. Yeah, they hating on me. The people themselves knew it. The authorities really knew and tried to conceal the identity of the Christ. That's so demonic. And then Luke 22:53, when I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. So you all is being evil. You're being dark and evil. Keep reading. More proof that the authorities knew. Luke 22, 2-6. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, even the devil, Satan, Lucifer. Then Satan entered into Judas called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. Even his disciples knew. Even the bad one knew. He went away and conferred with the chief priests. Another conference, conferred, conspiracy. And conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. So the chief priests were in on it. The officers were in on it. One of the disciples was in on it. Satan was in on it. The chief priests and the scribes. How he might betray him to them. And they were glad. They're like, yes, let's get him. Let's get him. We're going to get rid of this Jesus. Told y'all he was a troublemaker to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. They paid him, y'all. That's a conspiracy. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. They didn't want the people, and I'm going to tell y'all, that's one of the 4 reasons. They didn't want the people to be mad at them. They were very people-pleasing. They wanted to have the power and authority and attention. They didn't want the people to mess with them. Remember they said they feared the people, verse 2. They wanted to do it in the absence of a crowd, in verse 6. They were all about attention. People would deny Jesus to get attention, to get people's praise and glory and adoration. They want the power. They want the glory. Matthew 27, 1-6. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus. That's conspiracy, you all. All the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor. Then when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. That just goes to show that Judas knew Jesus was the Christ. He knew he did wrong to that man. He knew he took blood money, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. They said, what is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver into the temple, he departed and he went and hanged himself. He knew he was wrong, you all. The chief priests and the elders knew it was blood money. They knew, we don't care. They said, we know he's Jesus. We know he's the Christ. We know he's the Messiah. We know he fulfilled Old Testament prophecies. We don't care. We want the power. We want the glory. We want cushy positions. So he hanged himself, committed suicide, which is very rare in the Bible. You don't see a lot of suicide in the Bible. So he was so messed up with what he had done. If you betray God and you see him doing these miracles and stuff like that, you just know it's over for you, bruh. So, but the chief priest, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury since it is blood money. They knew they purposely used blood money to kill Jesus, an innocent man. The chief priests, y'all, they were wicked. The rulers of that time and the religious system were all wicked, demonic people. They were not good people. They're not good people. Well, 3 more verses before I get into those 4 points about why they conspired against Jesus. All right, Matthew 27, 62-66. More proof that they knew the whole time Jesus was God, the Christ, the Messiah, the anointed one. Verse 62. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Verse 64, therefore order the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people he is risen from the dead, and the last fraud will be worse than the first. So the chief priests and the Pharisees are conspiring with a Roman ruler, calling him an imposter and a fraud. They were nervous, y'all, because if you know he's dead, he ain't gonna get back up. They were nervous, like, man, if he get back up, we gonna be in trouble. We done messed up for real, y'all. So they're proving to you the tomb was made secure. The tomb was made absolutely secure. There's no way anybody could have gotten near that tomb, let alone get Jesus out of the tomb, that had this conspiracy that Jesus rose from the dead when he did not. So this proved that it was no way that would happen. Verse 65, Pilate said to them, you have a guard of soldiers. So the soldiers were in on it. You all, the guard of soldiers were in on it. The army was in on it. The Roman army was in on it. Okay, Pilate said to them, you have a guard of soldiers. Go, make it as secure as you can. Y'all, the tomb was as secure as humanly possible. Okay? So there's no way we could pretend Jesus got up from the dead if the tomb was as secure as possible. Verse 66, so they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. The stone was sealed, you all, and setting a guard. So they're proving to themselves that there's no way Jesus could have got that tomb unless it was supernatural. There's no humanly way possible he could have got out of that tomb. It had to be supernatural because he said he would get up 3 days later, and he did. I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have 8 verses in all, proving to you all that they knew the whole time Jesus was God. And you all, it's going to sound funny when I say this, but I don't mind you rejecting the real Jesus. Many people did. I just would hate for you to think you know the real Jesus and you don't believe the real Jesus and he never knew you. And you go to Judgment Day like, come on, Jesus, I'm going to heaven with you for eternity, or whatever you think you're going for eternity. You know, the new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem. And you find out, I didn't know you. I'd rather you reject him for who he really is than to accept the catfish Jesus for who he's really not. And then you go Judgment Day and you're deceived at these people who are saying, Lord, 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 Lord. So 2 more verses to prove that they knew the whole time Jesus was the Christ. Okay, this is Luke 23, 44 through 45 and 47. It was now about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. This is after he was crucified. It got really dark outside. The whole land was dark until the 9th hour. This is verse 45. While the sun's light failed and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. It was supernatural. This happened supernaturally. The sun's light failed and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. So the temple, the curtain that was in the temple was torn in two supernaturally. 47. Now when the centurion, a Roman person, saw what had taken place, he praised God, saying, certainly this man was innocent. He's like, I've seen many guilty men die, and when they died, the sun didn't go dark. When they died, the temple's curtain did not tear in half supernaturally. But when this man died, it got dark outside. And then the curtain was torn in half. So this man was innocent. This is a centurion. He's seen many people get killed, y'all. The crucifixion, y'all, that's not just the only way Jesus died. That was the execution method at that time. That's like how we had electric chairs, lethal injections, firing squads, guillotines, stoning, like different cultures and different time periods had different execution methods, okay? And so at this time, 1st century Rome, and maybe before then, even after centuries after that or before that, I don't know, they would crucify people. Jesus wasn't the only person to get crucified or killed, okay? This is saying that this centurion is saying with this man, he was innocent because this stuff that's happening is too supernatural. Matthew 27:54, again, another account of the centurion. One was about Luke, this is about Matthew. When the centurion and those who were with him, not just the centurion, but those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus on the cross, saw the earthquake. So here's another supernatural thing, earthquake. And what took place, they were filled with awe and said, surely this was the Son of God. So in Luke's account, it said he was innocent. It was just the centurion saying that. But in Matthew's account, they're saying the people who were with the centurion, and it was an earthquake, and they didn't just say he was innocent, they said, surely this was the Son of God. So the Roman centurion and the people with him knew he was the Son of God. They knew he was God. I'm telling you all, everybody knew at this time. Now today, we may not know because we're so far removed from Jesus and his miracles, and we didn't walk with him on earth like they walked with him on earth. We didn't see him open blinded eyes and heal the paralytic and stuff like that. But at that time, I'm telling y'all, if you don't trust him today, trust the account of the people back 2,000 years ago who knew and saw him. And as a child, they saw him. As an adult, they saw him crucified. They saw him rose from the dead. And I'm telling you all, is that everyone in that empire knew Jesus was the Christ. Those verses were to prove to you all that over 2,000 years ago, the entire Roman Empire, which was a huge empire, all of them knew Jesus was the Christ. Word spread abroad. The leaders knew it. The chief priests knew it. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, everybody knew it. Again, the people who knew, chief priests, Sadducees, Pharisees, elders of the Jewish people, high priest Caiaphas, Judas Iscariot, Herod the king, Governor Pontius Pilate, Roman guards, the centurion, scribes, false witnesses, the Sanhedrin, Jews, King Herod, they all knew or they conspired to kill innocent Son of God, Jesus Christ. So you got to ask yourself, you see stuff like this, why would a whole Roman Empire try to hide his identity and kill him? And why is this Bible illegal in all these nations? It's got to be something to it, okay? Let's keep going. The 4 reasons they conspired against Jesus. You say, okay, innocent man, he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't come from a wealthy, powerful family. I mean, he did miracles, he healed people. Why would that be a problem? Why is that an issue? I'm going to tell you all why. There are 4 reasons they conspired against Jesus. All these people conspired against Jesus. And this is no particular order. One reason they conspired against Jesus was because he did not follow the Sabbath. I'll explain that later on. Number 2, he claimed to be equal to God when he says he's the Son of God. Number 3, he caused a threat to their power, which you all saw. Number 4, they were evil and from Satan. Romans chapter 1 talks about that. So let's go on to number 1. He did not observe or follow the Sabbath. Sabbath day is Saturday. A lot of Christians, observe it on Sunday, or we church on Sundays, but the Sabbath is really Saturday. That's what in Spanish, sábado, S-A-B, sábado, Sabbath. The Jews were very serious about people not laboring on the Sabbath day. Yeah, there was a man who had been healed after 38 years on the Sabbath day and was told by Jesus to pick up his bed and walk, and the Jews began to persecute him. For what? Because he told a man who lived in paradise for 4 decades to walk and carry his bed. We don't carry beds on Sabbath. That's against the Old Testament law. I'm going to read y'all some interesting things about the Sabbath for the Jewish people. So the Jewish law, which is the halakha, I may be mispronouncing that, the halakha, prohibits doing any form of melakah, plural is malakoth, on Shabbat, or Sabbath, unless an urgent human or medical need is life-threatening. Though melakah is commonly translated as work in English, a better definition is deliberate activity or skill and craftsmanship. There are 39 categories of melakah. I'm going to read them really fast. Plowing the earth, sowing, reaping, binding sheaves, threshing, winnowing, selecting, grinding, sifting, kneading, baking, shearing wool, washing wool, beating wool, dyeing wool, spinning, weaving, making 2 loops, weaving 2 threads, separating 2 threads, tying, untying, sewing stitches, tearing, trapping, slaughtering, flaying, tanning, scraping hide, marking hide, cutting hide to shape. Let's stop there for now. Most of these are referring to like farmer types of agricultural type stuff. So like, we don't do all those stuff. We don't do most of these things. We don't deal with animals and crops and things like that. We don't sow, so we don't really do those things. Of course, this is back in the day. So of course, back in the day, they had all these types of things to do. But I'm going to talk about some of these other ones that seem very, very like, these are things that we probably would do today. Writing 2 or more letters. So if I write A, it's fine. A, B. Aha, you broke the Sabbath. You messed up there. Erasing 2 or more letters. That's how I wrote ABC on Friday. And I erased C. I'm good with C. Then I erased B. It's the Sabbath. You're laboring. You're doing too much. Building. Not allowed. Demolishing. Taking a building down. Building a building up. Taking a building down. Extinguishing a fire. Your house is on fire. And it's Saturday. What do? Let it burn. Kindling a fire. Starting a fire. Putting the finishing touch on an object. And transporting an object between private and public domains or over 4 cubits within public domain. So it's different if you're in the public, private. Not that it matters, we're not Jewish, but let's look it up anyway. It's at the length of a forearm. It's about 18 inches. So 4 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a cubit. So you can transport it here to there, here to there. That's in public. So I think in your home you're fine, but if you're, between a private, your house and then the grocery store, for example, or 4 cubits in public, that's labor. So they're very particular about the Sabbath, y'all. And Jesus was not following them Sabbath laws, y'all. Okay? Now, I'm going to read y'all something about the Sabbath elevator, which is interesting. I heard, I think Mark Driscoll mentioned this before. What is a Sabbath elevator? A Sabbath elevator is an elevator which works in a special mode, operating automatically as a way to circumvent the prohibition, to avoid operating electric switches on the Sabbath. The Sabbath elevator is typically marked with a sign that is illuminated to indicate when it is operating in the Sabbath mode. At such times, the elevator will stop automatically at all floors. So this elevator goes to each floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Mark Driscoll, the pastor, he said he went to Jerusalem and he was on Sabbath day when he was there. And he said there was 2 elevators. There's a Sabbath elevator and a regular elevator. So he got on the regular elevator. The man ran off the Sabbath elevator and got on the one with him and said, can you press floor 4, press floor 5, press floor 6, press floor 2, press 4. They didn't want to go through the flow of the Sabbath elevator. They wanted to go to the other one, but they didn't want to sing it. They wanted him to sing it for them. You see how particular, how petty, and how technical they are? That's the Jewish people where they were extremely petty and technical because they wanted to have us power and intention and say, oh, we're so perfect, we're so holy, we don't make no mistakes. I tithe on all I possess. I tithe on spices, They try to look righteous in people's eyes. So, of course, they didn't like what Jesus was doing and stuff on the Sabbath day, because they're like, we don't like all that Sabbath breaking, because we love the Sabbath day, because the Sabbath day makes us look holy. So I'm going to read y'all some verses real quickly about the Sabbath. Matthew 12, 10, 14. And a man was there with the withered hand, and they asked him, Jesus, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him? Jesus healed the man. Verse 14, but the Pharisees went out and conspired against him, how to destroy him. Wait, what happened? I healed a man with a withered hand, and you want to destroy me because I did it on a Saturday? Mark 2, 24, and the Pharisees were saying to him, look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath day? Talking about Jesus' disciples. Mark 3, they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so they might accuse him. And in verse 6, the Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel, conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. Not because he raped somebody, not because he beat somebody mercilessly, not because he stole something, because he healed somebody on the Saturday. How petty. It was serious. That's one of the 4 reasons they wanted to destroy Jesus. Verse 11 of Luke 6, but they were filled with fury. Y'all, they weren't just like whatever. They were furious and discussed with one another, conspiracy, what they might do to Jesus. I'll be 38 next year. And imagine me being invalid all my entire life. You think you'll be happy to see me get healed. But let's see how they felt about it. And Jesus said to him, verse 8, get up, take up your bed, and walk. And then once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked. Now that day was the Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who had been healed, it is a Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to take up your bed. When they found out that Jesus was the one who told them to do it, verse 16, this was why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Petty. 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 Persecuting him, wanting to destroy him because it was the Sabbath. The Sabbath was their day of them to be powerful and everybody get attention to them. So it's like, not on my day. This is our day. We're the leaders. We're the ones in charge. They want attention on their day. John 18. This was why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him. Not just persecute, not just destroy. Kill him. Because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father. What's wrong with that? Which that makes himself equal with God. So to be the Son of God and to make God your Father makes yourself equal to God. So that's why they want to kill him all the more. John 9:16. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God. He does not keep the Sabbath. The others said, how can a man who is a sinner do such signs? And there was a division among them. So they're trying to say, oh, he ain't nobody, he ain't right, he ain't good, he do these things on the Sabbath day. And they're like, that don't make no sense. Why would an evil person heal people